So this is the first attempt, and hopefully not the last, of the Another Star Wars Page podcast. We're here. We have the Instagram page, we have Twitter, we have the WordPress. Check it out, Facebook. This is the trial run for doing a podcast. You know, get a little more vocal, get a little more active on the thing. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves.
Yes, I am Brian, and I am big Star Wars fan, of course.
And the founder of Another Star Wars Page. You got it started.
Yes, it needs to have its day, but we are here trying to get people involved and talking because this movie, there's a lot to talk about. And as you know, the movie had come out, about a week ago. Heck, I don't know what day. It's Wednesday, so almost a week ago. And there's lots to talk about. Fans are in a tizzy. Splitting fans, brother from sister, mother from father. Splitting up your family since 2017.
Yeah.
And ruining your Christmas.
Oh, shoot, and Star Wars has split up families since 1977 as far as the story concerned.
Yes.
Please no Kylo Ray incest story. Please just let that die before it actually happens. If that can't still happen. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, you know. But yeah, so and then Bo here, co-host, contributor to the Another Star Wars Page stuff. I post Instagram sometimes. A little bit of the writing. That's all Brian. Brian's doing all the writing. He did the review a couple days ago. It's up there. Check it out. Read it. But yeah, we're gonna talk Last Jedi. Figured first podcast that we're trying to do. Reviewing the new movie. It feels like the best time to do it. You know, obviously this is gonna be a spoiler review. I'll say that straight up front. I mean, we're not gonna get the review quite yet, but there will be spoilers because you can't talk about this movie without spoilers.
Yeah, and everybody's doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been out almost a week. If you're a fan of Star Wars, you've already seen it. So, I mean, it's not going to ruin anything.
It's been almost a week, people. Yeah. Almost a week. Come on.
It's like anybody... No one's going to be listening to this podcast, but, you know, it's the first one, so it's trial, and so also people aren't going to listen to it. But if you are, you're obviously a Star Wars fan. That's basically what it is. If you're a Star Wars fan, you've seen it, if not once, at least twice. Some of us 3 or more. But yeah, so we're going to talk the movie. Can we talk about like our history with Star Wars, or just skip that another time? Just talk about the movie.
I could break it down quick. Fan since 3 or 4 years old. I can remember watching TV. And the scene I remember the most, the earliest scene I remember seeing was, that's no moon, it's a space station. And from then, from 4 years old, here we are till being an old bastard. So that's me, Bo.
I can't remember the exact moment, but I definitely remember as a kid watching it from the beginning. My sister was a fan, my uncle, my aunt, and now my cousins and everyone else I know. But yeah, I remember as a kid watching it on VHS. We had probably just like the standard for the very first VHS. I think we recorded it onto a VHS tape, like from TV, watched it that way. Bought the first VHS set, I think like 95. Before the special edition came out.
That was the last that was the last VHS. Bro. No, it wasn't.
No. The original.
It was the last original VHS.
Yeah. Right before the special edition. Then got the special edition, watched that a million times.
You know, that 95 edition got a lot of people back into it.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it was only about theaters, like 12 years since it was Jedi to that. I mean, I think it played on TV once or twice.
They had interviews. They had THX sound for your VCR. Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah, you can kind of consider that was probably the jump point. That sparked Lucas to go to the prequels, but we won't talk about that.
Yes.
Another time. But yeah, definitely remember me watching those movies on TV all the time, and then just been watching everything since. Hardcore collectibles. My sister read all the Expanding Universe books, collected the toys, and then, 97, 99, all the product placement explosion from the Phantom Menace and that stuff.
Yep, I remember drinking Pepsi cans with some boba on it. Or was it Mountain Dew?
Dude, we collected the cans. Like, we had every single can on display in our room.
Open or sealed?
Sealed, which was a bad idea. Sealed. Yeah, we kept those for years, then they exploded over time.
I actually had one. At one point, I had one that was in a case.
Oh, Jesus.
Man, I think I lost that thing, but it was. I think it was drained, but it was still sealed, and it was in like a box.
Yeah. See, we should have drained them, but we didn't throw them all away anyways.
Because I remember it being ridiculously light, but anyway. Memories of drinking soda with Anakin's face on it and crushing the can. Oh, sorry. Anyway, Bo, back to you.
But yeah, so I mean, it's a lifelong fan. I mean, as far as my life is concerned, yeah, and we'll talk about prequels, but I'm one of those fans. I'll say it straight up. Like, I'm a prequel defender to a point. I have my reasons for liking them. I actually wrote an article on the page. You can check it out if you want. But like, I'll say I'm a prequel defender because I love everything Star Wars. I'm not picky. I'm not one of those fans that hates just for the hate of it. But yeah. And so we also got our producer here, Kelsey, in the room.
Hi. Kelsey, like first experience, like actually Brian, you were saying that the 95 VHS release got a lot of people in it, and that was my first experience.
Yeah, see?
Like I got the box set for like a Christmas or a birthday present around that time.
All the rich kids had the laser discs. We had the VHS.
But yeah, that was my experience. I've seen them in every theatrical release since then, and stayed a fan. She kind of got me into wanting to be a filmmaker. Like George Lucas was the first ever person I could look at and say like that was like an idol, or like I want to be like that guy. It was like my first like hero. I didn't have like a Jackie Robinson or Michael Jordan or whatever. It was like George Lucas. Like that's what I want to be when I grow up, kind of a thing.
We all love and appreciate George Lucas here.
Yeah, you can fault him for the prequels and what he did. They weren't clean. They were, they had their faults, but the guy still made the universe. I mean, he what's the line? He's the spark that that lights the resistance, but he lights the entire franchise, the entire saga of Star Wars.
See, what I like to say about George Lucas is that a lot of people give him crap, but you still got to remember where it came from. And so a lot of people say George Lucas raped my childhood. I like to say George Lucas shaped my childhood, because without him, none of this would exist. And we could be liking something completely different, and
Could be a Star Trek fan.
yeah. I think I was going there, but yeah.
But let's not talk Star Trek now. I have no interest in not interest in that. I just don't want to talk about Star Trek.
We're Star Wars fans here. This is a Star Wars podcast, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Jedi.
Overall,
I liked it. I saw it 3 times this weekend. I saw Thursday night, opening night, of course. Had to. Friday.
I was there.
Yeah.
More times than you've seen your wife this week.
Saw it Friday night with Kelsey. Second movie was good. And then Saturday morning with Brian again. This movie is definitely, you have to view it multiple times, because the first time you go in, I felt like kind of like Force Awakens. You had to go in with all these expectations with it, this is what I expected in the movie. Watch it, realize there's a lot of stuff wasn't expected, or a lot of it was my expectations weren't answered or something. You go back the second time, you go, okay, I got that mindset out of the way. Now you just watch it to enjoy it. Star Wars movie again. I think that's what works with Star Wars movies. The last couple is going to see the first time, then watch the second time for sure, because you get the different experience. Even though it's the same movie, you probably have the same feelings. You definitely aren't going to criticize the second time. You just enjoy it for the sake of it.
that's what I end up doing too. A lot of times in this movie, I was blown away, and right away, I was. It was kind of an emotional tug of war, because throughout the beginning, we had that great sequence with Paige, the Resistance bomber, and. Man, I liked that whole scene. got me right into the movie. You know, the movie started out a little jagged, but it kind of still went right into the action. And the page thing was great. That was all awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Barbara scene, that was a badass opening scene. Obviously, the Poe comedy intro, I enjoy that for the sake of it. I mean, it's kind of cheesy, yeah. Some people hated it. A little more comedic than Star Wars used to, but I enjoy that. I enjoyed that too. Like, I like that little aspect. I felt it was a Ryan Johnson thing, and I enjoyed it for that.
I wasn't totally against it, but I wasn't. You know, I laughed at first, but then I realized, am I going to laugh the second time I see this? Nope. Am I going to laugh the third and fourth? Nope. It was kind of like that thing had, it kind of already outworn its welcome. But at the same time, I've heard other people say it fits with his character, and I can agree with that. I can get with that. So it softens the blow, but...
See, I think that's what it is for me. I think I appreciate Oscar Isaac's performance in this, because if you... I'm going to go into other movies too, because this is just what works with Star Wars, I think. Have you ever seen Ex Machina or...
wow, yes.
Or Llewyn Davis, or even a small role he did in that... Oh, God, I can't remember the name of it. It's a Madonna movie about... the American actress that wanted to marry King George and caused the rift, whatever. He was in that in a small role. I can't remember what the movie's called right now. But he's so, like, stern in those movies, and, like, seeing Oscar Isaac is, like, one of my current favorite actors, and he's just so good in that. And Force Awakens, as far as, like, it's comedic in a, I don't know, sarcastic way. Trying to think of a comparison, but I think he does a really good job, because I just, it's something different than what I'm usually see of his stuff. So it's like, it's kind of he plays it really well, I guess. So that's why I kind of like the comedy, that opening thing.
Yeah, I love Oscar. I Llewyn Davis, great performance, great movie. I'm not gonna push back on this too much, but it felt a little out of place. And
yeah.
I in the grand scheme of things, when people are talking about the comedic element of this movie failing, I think the comedic element really only fails like half the time, or maybe just a little more, because some of the jokes land, some of the jokes, you know, fall flat on their face, and I don't really know what else to say about that.
I was definitely a little surprised by it. That I wasn't surprised initially, because I know that there is, you know, humor kind of spread out through the several
universe.
like sagas, and but I was surprised it went on as long as it did.
Not that everything has to be taken seriously in a galaxy far, far away.
I think it's like, I mean, yeah, there's probably, maybe there was so much more comedic moments later in the movie that maybe that one scene had been fine, because you gotta throw some like heart and funniness to this film, because like Force Awakens obviously is dark, because, you know, we lose Han and stuff. But I did try to throw a little lightness in these movies, because this movie gets kind of dark if you really think about it. Like, how many people just get killed off?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, we lost Admiral Akbar there. Sorry, while you were
Like,
talking,
yeah.
though, we lost Admiral Akbar.
yeah, like that kind of thing. It's like,
Fell in the trap.
it was a trap. But yeah, we lose someone like Admiral Akbar and some other guys. Like, Akbar, he's not that prominent in Return of the Jedi. He has like some really awesome scenes, but it's still like he's such a fan character that it's like, you know, beyond the films, that's like, that's kind of a shitty way to just get rid of him.
Yeah. The thing that I thought of too was that I remembered that the actor who was the voice actor for him recently passed away, and
Maybe that's why.
I think that might have been their Disney's like reasoning for just throwing that line in there and not making a bigger deal of it, because everyone loves Akbar. You know, you can't really kill him off screen, but I think I'll just jump the gun here and say I think someone's going to get killed off screen between this movie and Episode 9.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I feel like it was kind of, you know, it was kind of a throwaway death, which I didn't know about the voice actor dying, which that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
But it still could have. I feel like you almost could have done the character more justice by not putting him in the movie at all, and we could have just assumed, because by that point he's probably kind of old. I don't know how long his, you know, whatever race that is lives, but to assume that, you know, it's already 30 years or whatever beyond Jedi, so it's like
and he's in Rogue One, so I mean he's been around for
He's in
50
Rogue
years.
One.
Oh, you're right.
That's Redis.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And little trivia, guys. The rebel ship that they are in, I believe, is called the Radis. Yes.
Oh, nice. That's way more knowledgeable than I am. But yeah, so like that's the thing I was saying. Like there's that kind of stuff, and then at the very end, we're gonna get that too. But like just the all the small transport ships just getting blown up. Like, oh look, we have 30 ships, and like half of them are gone. There's like 10 people left on the planet. You can't even really tell. It's like Jesus, this is like you went from like an armada to just like a handful of people in one room. It's crazy.
It was very self-contained, though. That like the First Order fleet was chasing down one rebel ship, and I mean that's a pretty damn impressive fleet they have. To say the least, and I didn't dwell on it too much, but the fact that they were still just slightly out of range kind of didn't really mesh the best with me, but I just kind of, went, shrugged my shoulders and went on with it, and just kind of, and you can't expect these movies to be perfect.
Yeah, and that will segue to that too, or we can segue now. But like that's part of this movie, and like I make myself remember it's that like it's a sci-fi fantasy movie. It's like there's some elements and stuff. It's like that's ridiculous. That wouldn't happen. Like the chase scene. Like I feel like that would end way sooner because it's like eventually that huge ship's gonna blow up that small ship. But you kind of forfeit. I don't say realisms, but like, realisms.
You have to turn off your brain and just accept things and let the art flow over you.
Yeah, there's some moments you just like, it's ridiculous, but it's still fun. Like a certain getting shot out to space scene.
I know. I mean, yeah. About that.
It's like on the realism thing. Like, I mean, I know this wasn't a George Lucas Star Wars movie, but that his, one of his biggest inspirations for like the original trilogy was like Flash Gordon, and that's got, I mean, like people fencing in space, and you've got fencing and like ray guns, and so I mean, there's kind of a little bit of like far fetched.
You gotta, the word escapes me right now, but you have to turn your brain off to it. And, I mean, Star Wars fans are critical, we're all critical, but, at the same time, we're there just to enjoy the ride. And while this may not have been a perfect movie, it definitely was not the worst. Not in my book, at least.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I am not a prequel hater, but this was way above the prequels for me.
Yeah, and I was saying, like, I'm a prequel defender to the end, even for as flawed as they are. But I recognize they're not great movies, and so that's why I think these movies are the new sagas or the new trilogy is definitely superior to those movies for sure.
Yeah. As for New Empire Strikes Back, I don't think so. Nothing can really dethrone that movie in my book.
Yeah, it's like when people said Force Awakens was the best movie since Empire Strikes Back. I'm just like, it's good. Like, it was a great start to a new trilogy, but it doesn't. I don't even think it ranks up with Return of the Jedi, honestly.
Well, it's still just more of the gateway to the new saga, and it's and as I've been saying lately, it's the safe bet by Disney, and then The Last Jedi, it turns out to be more of a crapshoot for Disney, because they're doing some things here that are really pissing some people off. And, at the same time, I mean, I thought I was going to be pissed off by a lot of stuff. I wasn't happy at first about the fact that, like, Leia could survive in space. But then, again, after I saw it again, I kind of just went, you know what? Shut up. Shut up, brain. Because the first time I did like it, in a way, because it was very sad and bittersweet, knowing that, like that's crazy looking at Carrie Fisher dead in a Star Wars movie, supposedly. And, that after the first time I saw it, it kind of, it didn't bother me as much. And the whole flying thing, She was pulling herself.
Like I was like in the moment I was like, oh shit, they just killed her off. Like this is it. This is how she dies. Even in the back of my head, I'm thinking like I thought she was in the movie later in Crate and stuff. But I was like maybe they changed it because of the fact that she died. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad she did die that way. Because I mean the easy thing. I mean killing her off is the easy part. It's finding a way to kill her like epically. I feel like she's a character that she needs to go out in an epic bang in some way. Like I wish she was in place of Holdo. Like I wish she was Holdo in that scene.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Taking out the Snoke's Star Destroyer and stuff. That would have been a great moment for Carrie. For
Go out like a hero.
Yeah, go out like a badass hero. Mm-hmm. But we didn't get that.
No. I think I remember hearing that they shot a lot of stuff with her for this movie and then held some of it back. And I want to say that maybe I just thought this, or maybe it happened, that you know they're kind of saving some of that footage for episode 9 because apparently she was supposed to be a big part of episode 9. And I keep wondering what the hell kind of part she would have in episode 9. And my mind just keeps drifting off to Jedi Leia. It could happen. It could have happened.
I don't think it's Jedi Leia. I think it's her transitioning from the leader, passing it off to somebody else being leader. I think like Poe, I think is the guy that'll take over his leadership like after what happens. Like, cause he like because there's that moment when like after Leia, we're jumping forward a little bit here, to when Leia, well, yeah, we're kind of at that kind of point where she comes back from the ship and she's like in a coma basically, and like we know who the obvious person is to lead us, and Poe's stepping up like, oh shoot, like I have to step up, be the leader, but then it's Holdo steps in. Holdo's gone, Leia's back, Leia goes away, Poe's in charge of the resistance because who's left?
Exactly.
So I think that they were setting up for. I think they were setting up for Poe to take over as a leader in episode 9, and I guess we'll see what happens now that Carrie won't be in it.
Well, see, this kind of goes full circle back to what I was kind of thinking. Even, I think you and I had talked about this right after seeing Last Jedi, was we kind of thought that, you know, maybe for episode 9, you know, no spoilers here because it's not confirmed, but this is a theory we had, was that, you know, jump forward 10 years later, something like that, and both you know, Rey and Poe and Finn have all been, you know, improving things, and Rey's training Broom Boy, maybe, or some kids just like him. And, you know, there's that, we kind of thought maybe they'll kill Leia off screen and put it in the crawl. That would be kind of cheap, but it's logistically, it could work, given, you know, the horrible circumstances. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Like each one of these movies have, there's gonna be tons of theories what's gonna happen in this film. When we get closer, we might have a better idea of what they're gonna do, but I don't think we really will know until we watch the movie. Like, I don't think it gets spoiled. I mean, there's been, you know, they have the rights to use any archive footage. They said they probably won't do that, but they may still do it. Who knows what they're gonna do? We'll wait and see, I guess, for that. Yeah.
Plus, if the Rian Johnson version of Star Wars, you know, shown anything, it's that you almost can't expect anything.
Yeah.
You know, that fan theory, you know, like fan theories be damned.
Well, there was a lot of this movie to not expect, and I think going from the Leia thing, the next thing I want to say, maybe I'm going a little too far, was Snoke, and Snoke was. There's a lot of good and bad with Snoke. The bad was that we didn't get more, and I mean, I know there's room to expand on him, but you know, rest in peace, Snoke. We hardly knew thee. You know, I'd like to have known a little bit more about him, but maybe we will through exposition.
But it's kind of thing is like there's a lot of characters in the Star Wars universe that we don't really know their history. Yoda, for one, like we don't really know that much about Yoda's history. He's the most badass Jedi in the Jedi Order. He's the master of the Jedi Order in the prequels. But it's like beyond that, what do we know? I think there's comics and maybe like a book that like talks about.
Yeah, but going just through prequels, sequels, OT. Like you kind of grasp that he's, you know, an old curmudgeon who's just
Yeah, no,
philosophical and badass.
Yeah, but I mean, like, his history, though, like, where does he come from? His his species. Why is he, like, what was the reason for him to become the most powerful Jedi in history? How did Snoke become so powerful? It's just a mystery that we may not ever know the story behind.
I mean, yeah, we don't need to know everything about him, but just dangling a little carrot instead of killing the guy off, which I gotta say was still a cool scene. The fight that followed it was amazing. That whole scene had me on my toes.
Yeah. But just not to keep going to Snoke, but like I think I read an article where someone said like it kind of made sense that like what's the point of having exposition of showing the character's history? Just kill him off in 5 seconds later. It's like that kind of makes sense. Like yeah, who cares about who he is now? He's dead. Move on. Kylo's in charge.
Right. Well, and even touching on what you said about how sometimes characters like even Yoda, who play a huge part in the universe, still have kind of a vague or underdeveloped like backstory. Like Darth Maul is like one of my favorite Star Wars villains. We didn't really find anything about him, for almost a decade before Clone Wars started to flesh his history out a little bit.
And even the thing, it's like we might get Snoke's story eventually, like in some other form of media. I mean, that's it with Darth Maul. Like we didn't know anything about him in the first movie. They didn't tell him at all. They released comic books. They released more in Clone Wars and stuff. We got more history with him, but it wasn't from the main films. I think that's the kind of thing. I think that's what Star Wars likes to do. Is like show the characters on film, but let's tell their story somewhere else because it's not essential to the actual plot of the movie.
It's kind of cool because it does limit it to the perspective of that movie's protagonist, because they're not going to even know beyond that necessarily. Like Rey doesn't know Snoke's backstory, and now we don't know Snoke's backstory, but we might find out later from when we're not witnessing the story from Rey's perspective, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
there could easily be another vision or whatever, and I don't know. I now my mind is kind of going back around full circle, and I'm going and starting to think about Luke, and a lot of people had a problem with the first time they saw Luke in this movie, and that was him throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder.
Yeah. Once again, the comedy, we say comedy, and people making the comparison, is that Rian Johnson saying, yeah, screw you, JJ, screw your movie, I'm throwing it out the window, this is my movie, which maybe it's symbolic, but maybe it's just, it was kind of a funny intro. We waited 2 years for that, like, oh my god, Luke's back, here's a lightsaber, what's going to happen? And he just chucks it. It's kind of like, oh, that's funny.
And I'm sure there was somewhere out there who said the same thing, like, I think he's going to take in his hand and throw it, or something, and
yeah.
I'm sure someone called it, and I enjoyed it. Like, to me, that was kind of a comedic moment that I could actually get behind, strangely enough. Like, I was okay with it. I chuckled, and I could still see myself chuckling at that one, unlike the Poe line.
Yeah, it's kind of like that moment, like, I'm saying a moment, but something, if it was you, like, in real life, all of a sudden, you ran into an ex, and they're like, here's my number, call me, and you're like, nope. You're like, hey, you're my ex for a reason, I don't want you in my life again. That's kind of what he did. Like, lightsaber represents the Jedi Order, I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of, expect, I guess we get in this mode of expecting, people on film, especially like the heroic characters, to have this big rehearsed, over the top kind of a scene, and, that it kind of makes them a little more real, if it's something you might actually do. Like, you don't always say the right thing.
Yeah.
You don't always say the most dramatic thing in that situation.
Yeah, it's kind of like, he's like, well, he's going to take a lightsaber, go, oh my god, my lightsaber, I'm back, let's do this. Like, that would have been a little cheesy.
Porgs. We need to talk about porgs.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
And then we go to that planet, what do we see? The porgs.
Are you a porg guy, Bo?
I mean, I'm not a poor guy, but I'm definitely satisfied with what they did. Like,
they're not the Ewoks.
No, I mean, I don't have a problem with Ewoks. It's more of like, before this, it was the commercialization of the porgs. Like, they were everywhere in the marketing.
There's one in my living room.
But I'm just like, I was worried because everyone was talking about porgs. I'm like, oh god, they're gonna be like just like there for just annoyance. It's an annoying thing. They're gonna be, people love them, and then they see the movie, it's like, oh, they're not that fun, but they were fun.
Jar Jar Porg.
No.
I wouldn't have that fun.
Nah.
But they were fun. Like, that scene with after Luke throws the saber and they see the porgs jumping on a lightsaber. I was like, oh, they're gonna kill a porg right here.
No, they wait till later to do that when Chewie.
Yeah, that's what got me, because I made the joke and I was like, I just want to see, like, because they're like, oh my god, Chewie loves the porgs, he's gonna be best friends. I'm like, I want to see Chewie just eat a porg, it'd be hilarious. And he basically did, he cooked it.
Yeah, a lot of people, when I told them that story, they said, well, the porg is dead. You know, it doesn't matter if he eats it or not. The damage is done.
Yeah, right? It's like, you might as well eat it, it's already cooked.
But even that is a great scene that's comedic, and yet, you know, it's cute in that Star Wars way, because Star Wars has to have that. There's several things that have to happen in a Star Wars movie almost for it to be, identifiable as a Star Wars movie, and one is cute creatures. You know, one is, at least one scary creature. You know, there's always, for most of the movies, there's even, if you look at, there's even a theme of using subtitles in some of these movies, and using the subtitles sparingly. Force Awakens did that with the Kanja Club scene, where we only, there was that, and then one other little quick scene with subtitles, and there's it's like George Lucas said, it's like poetry, they rhyme.
I'm on the fence with the caretakers. With a couple moments with Rey, they were kind of funny, but otherwise I'm just looked out of place in a way. I mean, I don't know, how'd you feel about those guys?
I kind of wanted to, it's not that I didn't want to say, oh, I want to know more about them. No, I didn't want to know anything more about them. I just kind of wanted what they were doing with them to make some sort of sense.
Yeah.
Other than comic relief. Comic relief would be fine, but it was kind of like, is there a point to these guys?
Yeah, that was...
I'm sorry, ladies.
I was thinking that's like, people were saying too much comedic stuff in the movies, and that was probably the one comedic part that I could have got rid of. I mean, if I had seen it 3 times, I enjoyed still that scene with Rey cutting the rock and it falling and crashing into their car. I think it's hilarious. But if it wasn't in there, I'd be fine. Porgs would have been enough, like, creatures, and the crystal wolves, or salt wolf, whatever the things
Well, we
are called.
also can't forget about the milk-bearing creature of Octu. And, I slap on my wrist for being a Star Wars fan who doesn't know the name of this creature. I wish I knew. I need to look more into that. Maybe Pablo Hidalgo could help us out, or Bo on Google in front of me. But that scene...
That was weird.
It was weird. I literally cocked my head to the side and my jaw fell open for about 5 seconds after that. The good thing too, though, is I mean, it was off the wall, and it kind of I think it prepped me for other shocking moments throughout the film that were more essential to the story, not just a set of teats being milked. This creature, it's been seen in a couple spy reports. I believe Making Star Wars broke it, where they had there was an actual animatronic creature up on, I believe, Skellig Michael. I don't know if it was the set or not. Probably really Skellig, but I didn't think they were going to play into the film that way. I thought it was going to be something more story driven and not just a throwaway scene with Luke drinking some freshly squeezed milk. And in fact, we ended up making a meme that has said teat, Star Wars teat, on our webpage and Facebook and Instagram, and I believe it's on the Twitter. Got milk, and it was funny because we have a comment from Chet Doherty, and Chet Doherty has a comment it's a picture from Wedding Crashers, and it says, "You motorboater, you motorboating son of a bitch, you old sailor, you," from Wedding Crashers. Thank you, Chet. That made me laugh. And yeah, so a lot of weird moments through the movie, and I think we can all just pretty much agree not to talk about Canto Bight, because I think we're all kind of in agreement that it wasn't really needed, and if it was needed for story reasons, it could have been severely cut down.
Is that plot even relevant at all? Like, if it didn't happen, would it affect the movie? And like, the only thing it really does is it sets up Benicio del Toro's character DJ. I guess it's DJ, but they never really said for sure. I guess it's like an acronym for him.
Yeah.
But like his whole, like, he betrays them because he tells the First Order about transport just leaving the main ship, and people are commenting like, when did he tell them? When did he find about that? I'm assuming it's on the ship when they're flying into the First Order, or to the Resistance, the First Order ships, whatever. I'm assuming he probably finds out from Finn and Rose on the ship at that point. You just see it off screen.
Or he's that good of a hacker.
Yeah, I think it's like, I'm not like, that's like the small bit of that really story bugs me. I mean, that's just one of those like plot points. Sometimes plots like that, or like points of the story, just fall through the cracks.
Yeah, you gloss over them because you just
assume things. I mean, you can go through the original trilogy and the prequels for sure, and there's like moments like that where it's like, how did that person know about this? Like, they just do. But regardless of that, I mean, that's the only part of the whole film of that storyline is just that part, like him finding out, telling the First Order, and selling the secrets in a way. And it's like, beyond that, it's like, it's just not an important piece of the movie. I think it's basically giving everybody loved Finn in the first movie in Force Awakens, so this is like, let's give Finn a story that's not completely revolved around Rey. I think they wanted to give Finn his own story with another character. You can't do like a solo scene in Star Wars unless you're like Luke, I think, or
Obi-Wan.
Or Obi-Wan.
Sending Obi-Wan off on a mission.
A Jedi, basically. They're all solo, but Han's never really on his own. Leia's on her own in New Hope, but she's with somebody else the rest of it. Yeah, so I think that's basically what that whole point was. Is give Finn like his own story that's away from Resistance, and
he had to keep him busy.
Yeah.
Well, you've got Rey's
totally.
the focus here in her whole storyline with between Luke and Kylo, and Finn's over here, so we got to keep him busy. So
and Poe's doing his thing, like questioning Holdo and mutiny, all that. It's like, what's Finn doing if doesn't have that story? He's sitting in the back and being like, something needs to happen. I need to do something, guys. Like, I don't know.
Set wise, I liked what they did with the city. From a just purely
definitely.
Aesthetic,
creative wise,
yes.
Like, I enjoyed seeing that side. Sometimes you get so focused on like the war and the being in the heart of space or on these death worlds that you forget that there's normal people, and these are always like the 1% of that society.
Yeah.
But like you sometimes you forget, like, there's people just waking up in Star Wars universe and like going to work or eating or making dinner and doing this thing. But yeah, I don't think it was necessary at all to the main plot. But sometimes visually I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that's
inspired.
Yeah, that's definitely like a prequel thing. Like, you didn't see that in the original trilogy. There wasn't any kind of point where you like saw other aspects of the world with the main characters. You'd see like maybe Luke's life on Tatooine, and then everything else is related to the actual Empire versus Rebels. Prequels, you get that a lot. You get Coruscant, you get Naboo, you get to see like the more like aesthetic and kind of prettiness of the universe, I guess.
Sweeping shots and
and stuff like
animals in the distance and the moonlight or something.
I like that stuff. I mean, it's kind of cool to see that kind of element of the story. So I think that's what it was meant for. Those kind of people. Like, I liked it aesthetically. It was nice. Great settings, cool costumes and characters in the background, people and stuff. But yeah.
Story-wise, it just didn't cut it.
Yeah, story-wise, it's not necessary.
It could have been shortened. It could have still been there, just tightened up,
Those kind of things fit better when it's like in a TV series, and you can kind of, wander around the universe a little more.
And then, I think that someone compared it to a TV series scene at one point, or I could be wrong, but, it
made a good plot for like a half-hour episode. And that was it. And we're done.
Episode of Rebels. Don't shoot me for saying that, but it was an episode of Rebels.
Yeah, definitely. That was kind of like that. Yeah, you say that now, I realize. Yeah, you're right. That's what that is. It's like, it's definitely a Rebels thing where it's like, just a story that no one really asked for, but you see it and you're fine with it.
Or you're pissed off until next week, Rebels.
They did liberate the space llamas, so.
And I'm really hoping we get Lando in episode 9. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Lando can, we can have an explanation for why he's not there, but, give us something.
I mean, definitely it's a setting point with so few resistance left. He could be a person to be like, come in and join them. Like, yeah,
Save the day.
Without Harrison, without Carrie, I mean, we got Mark still. And
See that, Disney? You're going to have to put him in, damn it.
It's like Mark's going to be there for sure. Luke will be back.
He'll be back.
But I think we need like at least some more original trilogy characters, and Lando's the only really character that can really fit into the story. I think at that point, there's no one else really left. I mean,
we need some old school guidance.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be able to guidance. He would just be like a fun little, kind of like Jurassic World Part 2, and you got Jeff Goldblum seeing him in Jurassic World Part 2. It's like, God, this movie looks awful. But hey, look, we got Jeff Goldblum back for a little bit, so Billy D. Williams is part of the Star Wars franchise. It'd be nice to see him back for at least a scene or something.
Like when you can harken back to like the golden, like the peak of that franchise.
Bring him back, Disney. Just bring him back. Just for a little bit.
Right.
You don't have to kill him. He can walk off into the sunset.
Yeah. He's not a character you can kill off. You can just have him show up and then leave. Whatever.
We've had enough heartbreak, Disney.
Let's get to the Snoke Star Destroyer scene.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So many questions answered. Maybe, possibly. Who's Snoke? Nobody. We were talking
Nobody
about that.
knows.
Nobody knows. Doesn't really matter. Rey's, parentage. Was it answered? Yes, no. Guess we'll find out in a couple years.
I wrote this in the review, but I have to say it here. I have to say it. I've been thinking this whole week since we've had the movie out, and I've seen the movie about 4 times myself since, and thinking about what Kylo Ren said, it seems to me that maybe he's not telling the whole truth, or he's twisting the truth, or that there's a certain point of view going on, because as much as we all want to see Rey not be somebody's child, daughter, whatever, I think there's still that little bit in all of the Star Wars fan that kind of says, oh, maybe they'll throw a curveball and she'll be a Palpatine, or related to Kitster, or somebody crazy like that. I'm kidding, right. Kickster, we love you. So I think Kylo is lying to Rey, and I think we may find out more. That's kind of my wildest guess, but at the very least, maybe he's 100% right, and that's it. And end of story.
Well, I think two things we have to consider with that. I mean, obviously, it's all speculation, at this point, but we don't know that Kylo is he could be a faulty narrator, where he doesn't have the whole truth. Mm-hmm. So he may even think he's right and doing her a favor and saving her this big search for her parents. But maybe he doesn't know, or maybe he is lying, because he is, he's obviously a little twisted. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen that maybe he's not purely evil, but we know he's definitely not.
He isn't coming.
A straight shooter.
He's not coming back to the light. I think
he can't. Yeah. He can't be redeemed. I think the end of the movie showed it. Yeah. I mean, I think that was his best part of his performance, was the ending of that movie. And yeah, some people laughed at a couple lines that he said in my theater one of the times I went, and I could see why they did, but at the same time, it was an emotional scene. And yeah, Kylo is not a reliable narrator. And in fact, the one thing that I was going to say was that I remember James Earl Jones in some old documentary talking about when he read the line for Empire Strikes Back, "No, I am your father." He said that his first reaction was that Darth Vader was lying. And he said that, he didn't trust Darth Vader, but we'll have to find out in the next movie, 3 years later, 83 for Jedi, where it was finally confirmed that it was Luke's father. Vader was Luke's father. And maybe that same thing will happen and it'll be confirmed in episode 9. But there's still that level of speculation. I think Disney's just kind of doing this to, story-wise, and they're also doing it to kind of throw the fans off the scent and kind of calm them down and throw them a little bit of bone and say, forget about this, accept this.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing we have to consider with that, I agree, I totally agree, is that the next, in episode 9 is going to be a J.J. Abrams project.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, before we had that, is Luke, is Luke Vader's son? Even though he didn't direct all of the original trilogy, it was still Lucas's vision. So you had, whatever the end goal was going to be, it was that throughout. Everything was leading up to that point. But now it's shifted. You had the J.J. Abrams is going one way, and then you've got the Rian Johnson kind of taking you another way, and now
Hard left turn with Last Jedi.
so the big question is now, is it going to go back, or
So this thing, people are like, oh, Rian Johnson just threw away everything J.J. Abrams did, but it's like, do you really think J.J. wrote a story and then Rian Johnson just wrote another story and continued his story and like, oh, I'm gonna do my own thing? There's a cohesive story. There's some plot points that they're keeping, and each film develops into it. Like,
I agree.
Lucas wrote out the first 6 movies as like kind of plot points. Like, he had ideas set. Things obviously changed over the years, but he had things that were pretty much set. And so, like, this is the stuff I want to do in these movies. I'll work my way to get there. Even like small details, like you see in the prequels, like there was always the element that the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader happened on a lava planet, mentioned in like a book back in like the 80s, and then we got that scene in Revenge of the Sith. And it's like
it was kind of accepted for a while that that's where it happened too.
Yeah,
because I remember hearing the same thing.
So it's like there's probably the same elements in like this. Like, I'm sure, I don't know who. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy's the head of Lucasfilms. I don't know how much storytelling she's involved in, but Abrams, Johnson, and
I mean, Kasdan probably had some input too.
I'm sure there's some cohesive points that they've got sat down and wrote out, saying this is what we want the story to end up being. Like they might have like Rey's parents are X, Y, and Z, but we're gonna segue. We're gonna not touch on it, mention it, and then like completely 180 it. I mean, it's possibly that's the way they did it. Other elements like Luke, like we're planning to have Luke die in the second part, like not really there in the first movie, there, and then like kind of show up in the end too. Like there's like, I'm sure there's things that they have put into the main story that are just you're building to.
Yeah, I agree with you, because they need some sort of a framework. They can't just go willy-nilly and just start taking these characters in different directions.
Yeah. And look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a perfect example. Like, this franchise started 10 years ago by Kevin Feige. He's been the head honcho, like, mapping out what's happening, and now we're getting the 10-year build-up to, the next Infinity War movie. I mean, like, other movies are directed or written by the people, but like he has plot points like, I need to touch on this, and this in your story. Everything else you build around it. Mm-hmm. And like that's what they probably do with Star Wars as well. Is they're like we need this, and this. Work around it, make it work. Like that's what they're basically doing. I think people's concerns is that Rian Johnson just came in and did his own movie and said screw everybody else. Like no, he did his style of the story plots that he was supposed to tell.
And I thought about that too, and maybe Disney, Lucasfilm, Disney, maybe they like his vision more, and that's why they're giving him that trilogy. I mean, that's got to count for something.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they've made mistakes, or so they've said mistakes. I don't think they were mistakes. Maybe not all of them, but they made some directing mistakes in the past. But I think they're trying to right that, and I think for some reason they have faith in Rian Johnson, and so should we. I mean, while Last Jedi may have split fans, it's kind of brought them together in a weird way, because we're at least talking about it somewhat civilly, because there's good and bad things we can all agree, I think, as fans. Like, there's good elements that we love, and there's some things that we, wish were better. But, we didn't make the movie. Someone else did.
Right. Well, and, it made people care, which I think is sometimes the most important thing to keeping a franchise alive. For maybe, number 9 is on the schedule. Episode 9's on the schedule, but sometimes you think if nobody's interested in a franchise, it can just kind of die off. And I think the worst thing that can happen to a franchise is that people just don't care one way or another. You know, if they're mad, and they're going to want some kind of resolution. And if they're loving it, they're going to want more because they're loving it. But you're right, like some people are loving it, some people are not so much. But you're right, they're talking about it, you know.
There's an open dialogue going, and people are seeing it more, and people are I know I'm coming to terms with certain things.
Right. And if people weren't upset, it would mean that they weren't interested.
Exactly.
So, I mean, people are paying attention, people are involved in the story. It's still relevant, you know, 30 plus years later. People still care what happens to these characters.
And I think, speaking of which, we need to talk about Luke.
We want to finish talking about Snoke, Rey, and Kylo, or go back to them. We'll talk about Luke. We can go back to them.
We can do Kylo.
I mean,
Put a shirt on, Kylo.
Yeah, that was...
That's for that's for the ladies, and it was an awkward moment. But whatever.
It was.
You don't see a lot of shirtless guys in Star Wars. You don't really see many, you know.
Hayden Christensen and Attack of the Clones.
That's true.
You get that moment.
She's like a giant
I thought, if anything, that scene, that little... I mean, I didn't like her dialogue in that scene whatsoever. The whole putting on a cowl or something.
Yeah.
That was unneeded, unnecessary. I think it would have worked better straight, as in if she had played it completely straight. And I mean, I think if it was there for the ladies, and the ladies are there to enjoy it, whatever, it should also serve a story point too. And that story point that I think it served was it shows a little more humanity of him. He has to do things. I mean, Kylo Ren poops. You know, everybody poops. Even Kylo Ren. And so, you know, we have to see him doing everyday stuff, but, you know, we don't necessarily need to see him pooping and, you know, brushing his teeth and stuff. But I think that was kind of what they were going for. But then they undercut it with a joke. And that's where it fell apart for me.
Yeah, and also maybe, too, they show his, like, cut from Rey from Force Awakens. Like, they show, like, I didn't realize it, like, he got that badly cut. I don't know if it's entirely from Rey or from Finn, too. But he has a huge scar from his chest to his face. It's like maybe they wanted to show off that, like, look, he's got that scar raised, like, yeah, look what I did to you. I fucked you up, and, like, I'm a nobody.
I thought that was a nice touch. Or the little medical droids that were pulling out his science fiction stitches out of his face. It's kind of, because you see how they heal, or, oh, the bad guy, this is his process of getting better, you know. Usually they have the big bad will show up in the next movie with a scar, and he's invincible again.
Yeah. Which kind of think about Luke's in his hand. I'm not sure why he never, like, his hand's robotic. He doesn't have the skin like he does in Return of the Jedi. They don't really talk about that. I mean, like, it's really relevant. It's just kind of weird that they would do that. Like, why does he have a robotic? Make him more close to Anakin, I guess.
Well, maybe as you can see, I don't know. He got a shot on the skiff in Jedi.
Yeah, but
I'm sure he got it fixed eventually, because we see it in the cockpit, putting the glove back on. But maybe it was to kind of remind the viewers that he's been through a lot.
He's been on his own for a while too.
That too. Yeah. I mean, doesn't have a whole lot of hand fixtures on that island.
Maybe the skin rubbed off when he was playing with his lightsaber. Yeah, eventually he's got to rub away, you know.
I don't know if the space nuns around. They're probably...
Oh
boy. I think we were all thinking of it, but you had to take it there.
It's like those cows with no one getting milked on the planet.
Yeah. Well, I did like seeing him fish. That was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really different to me. I mean, we've seen Rey eat before, but now we saw Luke catch a fish and walk like a badass up the hill with it over his shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they almost get, by each trilogy, they almost become more human. Like you're saying, in the original trilogy, we don't really see a city. You know, we see Cloud City. You get the sense that it's a big settlement, but you really don't ever see outside of the boardroom. Mm-hmm. You know, or see outside of the chamber where, you know, Han gets encased.
The business of war.
Yeah, you don't see where they live, and then the prequels you start to see, here's Coruscant and like a city, and there's diners and stuff. They have a diner, you never see them eat, and then you see them, you see Kylo getting dressed, and you see Luke fishing, and they are like humanizing them a little more gradually.
And you made me just remember, it's been the second instance of food in the original trilogy was Yoda and Luke on Dagobah, and they were fighting over a little space sausage, and I always think it's funny to see that space sausage and a little box full of what looks like pills and full meals, probably in pill form. That was always interesting to me, even as a kid, because it was kind of like, wow, like my heroes eat too.
Yeah.
And that humanizes them. I mean, something simple like that, and they don't have to make a big deal about it, Hey, I'm eating food.
And show Luke just being like a crazy farmer, hermit guy, just like, get my milk from this cow, and I get my fish for my meat, and maybe I eat a pork probably. I probably eat some pork.
That's probably a missed marketing opportunity, is the Star Wars brand Blue Milk. You pair up with Foster Farms and
come from a galaxy to you. But yeah, let's get back to Kylo and Rey, and I guess we didn't really touch on like the whole Force, Facebook, whatever the heck you want to call it.
Oh wow!
Instant messaging.
I was fine with it.
Yeah, I am too.
I was fine with it. I thought I wasn't going to be, but I was fine with it.
Yeah, it was different.
What's your take on? Because I'm still not totally resolved on when Luke kind of walks in on their conversation and he can see Kylo, and I'm wondering if that's just the visual representation of him being able to sense who Rey is talking to, and that's why we see him, or...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think it's all a mental thing. Like, he's aware of Kylo's presence there. He probably doesn't necessarily see Kylo as clearly as, like, Rey does. Because I don't think he's completely back with the Force at that point. Like, or unleashes himself in the Force. I'm trying to remember.
So was the Force unleashed? One of the things I miss about the expanded universe is the Force unleashes a canon. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely a more symbolic appearance. Like, he's aware that he's there. Of course, there's the joke is like, why are you still like angry about them touching hands? It's because they're siblings, and Luke's like, I've been there. Really, I think it's.
I haven't heard that, but
really?
I do know there are a lot of Rilo fans out there, and
yeah, anytime there's like it's almost like a Romeo and Juliet romance, but what if it's more like a Cersei and Jaime romance?
I almost thought we were going to get it in this movie. I thought we were going to at least get maybe a seedling or an inkling of something maybe to happen down the line. I was wrong on that, but you can't refute, there was still like a good amount of sexual tension.
Definitely.
In the elevator scene. Even in their talk with Snoke, you kind of felt like they were on the same side before you even knew that Kylo was going to turn and do turn against Snoke. There was still that kinship there, and while it may not be romantic, it still works.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I think that's kind of like the element of the Force and the Sith and the Jedi is the seduction. Whether it's I think it's more like usually it's seduction of the dark side, and it's like I think it worked for the light too. You're Kylo's being seduced to the light side, so he, in a way, not necessarily, but metaphorically, to be with Rey. Like, he's like, oh, if I, turn against Snoke, I can be with Rey, and then maybe on his own terms. But Rey thinks, oh, I can turn him to the light side and join us and fight the First Order.
I think, yeah, they both wanted to turn each other. They turned each other away at the same time because I mean, I think Kylo especially thought I can be supreme leader, and she could be my apprentice, and
Yeah, I think that's where the tension...
Take on Luke Skywalker ourselves.
Yeah, that's where the sexual tension can kind of come into play for them, because it's male and female sexual seduction, attraction, whatever, but it could just be like a two equal forces being attracted to each other in a way.
Two tortured souls.
Yeah. And I think I kind of like the Force communication thing. I like the element of it because it shows you a different side of the Force. The other thing, it's like a lot of like comic books and sci-fi things where it's like things are always going to be new to somebody who's like, oh, the Force can't do that. It's like, how do you know? I mean, just because it's never been seen before, that means
I want to say that a lot of the movies that we've seen since the original trilogy have expanded the Force, because even in Force Awakens, we saw right off the bat that Kylo could freeze a laser bolt midair and hold it there as long as he wanted to.
Yeah, and no one complained about that. They're like, oh my god, that's badass. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that were like, hey, you can't do that.
Most people I've talked to enjoy it. I enjoy it.
No, and that's the thing. It's like this is just on a bigger scale because it's something that we've never seen before. But it's like, you know, the original prequels, Obi-Wan comes back as a ghost, then Jedi, Yoda, and Anakin come back as ghosts. Prior to that, I think that was a completely new idea in the Jedi Order. Like in the prequels, it's like no one knew you could talk to the dead until, you know, Revenge of the Sith, when Yoda tells Obi-Wan, like, I talked to Qui-Gon. He's like, what? You talked to Qui-Gon? It's like, clearly Qui-Gon discovered the ability to come from the Force beyond the grave.
Which I always thought was interesting, because that relates back to him in Phantom Menace being kind of a guy who doesn't walk the narrow path. He kind of, you know, a bit disobeys the rules, and because he was that way, that's how he found this secret to immortality. And it was kind of a, you know, I mean, hell, for a while there, I thought Qui-Gon was the Phantom Menace, because he brought everything into. We're getting into prequel talk. I need to stop.
Yeah, I won't go there. But basically, what we're saying is like we're seeing elements of the Force that are brand new and they're different. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we're just seeing something that we never seen before. And to fans of just the originals, it scares them. I think it's like, oh, this is something different. I don't like it, because like people just don't like new things, different things, and I mean, it's fine. I mean, it kind of same with the Leia thing, like her, you know, floating towards her ship after she's blown out of space. Like that's just an element of the Force we've never seen before. That's kind of how I see it, and I don't think it affects the story. I think it helps, or moves the story along and makes it interesting.
Yeah, it did. Because then it had you. I mean, I think it also kind of did what a lot of movies that don't play it safe. A lot of horror movies do this, and you know, a lot of horror movies will kill off a main character early on. Psycho comes to mind. Scream comes to mind. A lot of movies did that, and it kind of makes you think, all bets are off. Anyone can go at this time. Luke Skywalker. Oh shit! There he goes.
Oh, even outside of horror movie, I think they were the first ones to really, you know, kind of pioneer that. Like, yeah, no, you know, bets are off. But even Game of Thrones, for a fantasy universe, to kind of pull no punches. And, you know, I mean, spoiler alert, but you know, Ned Stark. Well, you know, if you haven't seen it by this point, but yeah, Ned Stark. I mean, I think he was a big name, you know, for.
Yeah, no, I mean that's yeah, it's kind of like it's with Star Wars. It's never about expect the unexpected.
It's all good. I'm not gonna remember who that is.
I don't think he's gonna watch Game of Thrones anyways. It doesn't matter. I mean.
Let's edit.
I'll cut a lot of that out.
Yeah. Well, pretty good first edit. Like.
But yeah, no, it's like, I mean, that's the thing, it's expected and unexpected in this universe, because that's the thing, it's like, if we were getting just the 9 movies like originally was planned in the 70s by Lucas, fine, there's only so much in 9 movies, but now Disney's stepping in and people are like, oh, we're getting too much Star Wars, but Disney's like, we want to give you as much Star Wars as possible, so that's going to start opening doors to things that you never knew could be possible in the Star Wars universe. And I think this is just like, this is the test run for that. It's like, look at all the stuff we're doing. There's way more to come in the Star Wars universe because we have this ability to do so. And that's kind of like how I'm seeing the whole Last Jedi, was basically saying Skywalker's been the prominent family or the story for the original saga. The prequels included, and these were basically this Luke story, Anakin story, Leia story, and now it's going to be Rafe and Poe story. because they're like, there's more than just this one family, especially like in the Jedi Order and the Sith. There's more than just these people. It's like there's a whole universe. It's an entire, so much more elements to this universe because they don't want to focus just on one characters and stuff. They want to make it a real Star Wars universe as opposed to just this one story.
And they've said too that Force Awakens was to pass the baton on, and I think Last Jedi was the movie that kind of made it was the actual passing. We lost Han Solo in Force Awakens, but in this movie we lost Luke. I mean, we know he'll come back, but this movie is all about, in some of its deeper themes, it's about moving on. And I say this in the review, it's about moving on within the movie's universe of, characters and people we know and love, but it's also about our lives and moving on with the stories that we loved and the people we loved in those stories, the characters of Luke and Leia and Han and all them. We have to move on and attach ourselves to Rey, Finn, and Poe.
Right.
And actually, this film is the ripping of the Band-Aid. It's the saying, here's your change. It's happening. Yeah. Move on.
And it's like a relay. It's like Force Awakens, the passing of the baton. Last Jedi is the curve to the last point. And
exactly.
And then Episode 9 will be the sprint to the end zone, or the sprint to the end zone, sprint to the end of the race, and to see where it goes beyond that. Because after Episode 9, we're getting Rian Johnson's new trilogy, which nobody knows what that's going to be about.
But we know it's going to be unrelated.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole new thing. They already said no Old Republic, which kind of sucks. I want to see that, but we can get that. But once again, that's something we could go back to at some point. We don't need that out of our way. Maybe they want something completely different.
If we're getting Star Wars movies till we die, I think that's the phrase. We'll get it eventually.
I mean, who would have thought 30 years ago when A New Hope came out that 30 years from, the people in the theater as, children, their grandkids would be watching a new Star Wars movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So who...
It's a generational thing. That's why we're here. That's why we do it.
Yeah, I mean, and people are like, oh, I don't want to see this much Star Wars, this is too much Star Wars. But it's like, where was that complaint when you had the book series, the comic series, video games? It's like, it's that stuff just in movie form, just in different media. I mean, I'm for it. I'm cool with the new Star Wars every year. It doesn't have to be the same continuous story. It could be offshoots and stuff. I mean, other than Solo, which we can all agree, no one really cares about that movie. But
Tell me how you really feel, Bo.
But yeah, I think this is a good. I mean, that's the thing I like about Last Jedi. And I mean, we don't know for sure Rey's parents. I mean, if that's the element we go with about expanding the universe beyond this family, that she really is nobody, and that is the jump point to let's go somewhere else. They can still last minute change it. We'll see.
And again, the story's evolving. Like you said, the framework's there, but the little things are the cogs within the cogs are working, which is, like why we still have Poe Dameron, because we weren't originally going to have Poe Dameron this far into the series. He should have been dead by now, I believe.
Yeah.
So they're changing little things like that while keeping us, like you said, it's the pitch, the curve.
And even with that expanding universe, I think as the scope of the Star Wars universe is expanding, and we're getting this broader view of that universe and the characters and all the different family members and things that seemed like a big deal at the time, like new Force powers. We could look back on it in 10 years and say, well, remember when we thought it was weird that you could do that one thing with the Force, and now we're gonna have 10 years of new Force powers ahead of us, or things like changes like that when you look at the big picture, they're just little pinpoints on this timeline, that there's going to be all kinds of new things.
They're means to ends.
Right, yeah, and it's these new things we've never seen, but I mean it's all new until we've seen it.
Right.
And then you can't unsee it.
Kylo's high-waisted Sith pants.
High-waisted, crop top.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that, I mean, so going all the way back to the Force communication thing. Weird, new, different, not bad.
No.
And it sets up what Luke does in the end and how he goes down and stuff. I mean, because otherwise it's like if they didn't have that communication thing, there's no way to. I mean, there's not. How would you explain? All of a sudden, Luke does that. It's like, oh, it's not new. They already did it. Luke did it too. It's possible.
It does kind of, in hindsight, it does feel like a setup because, yeah, exactly. And the other setup that runs along with that is when Kylo Ren says to Rey through one of those visions, through one of those communication sessions, that doing that power alone would kill her, and so that gives a lot of weight to how Luke dies at the end with me, and why I'm okay with that now. I wasn't originally, but I'm okay with that now because they set it up, and if you think about what we just said about how the Force is changing, it makes sense. And again, it goes back to what the whole theme of this movie, which is basically saying to everyone, fans included, time to move on. Time to kick this rust bucket into gear and move on. New shit's coming.
And yeah, and just wrap up Rey and Kylo, that fight scene. That's so
amazing.
Yeah, that was just badass. Just, I mean, the repercussions obviously, like them not in the end not being on the same side, but them just the lightsaber coming out of Snoke's body into Rey's hand and just back to back being the shit out of the Praetorian Guards. That's just so awesome. I would say that probably is like ranked up there with the fight scene as far as like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul and Anakin versus Obi-Wan.
I really thought we were going to get the Knights of Ren, and I think what happened within reading spoilers over the years, which is great that there weren't too many spoilers about The Last Jedi out there, but one of the things that I remember hearing about was that there was supposed to be a big fight with the Knights of Ren on Ahch-To with Luke and Rey, and I think even Chewie was supposed to get involved, and in a way I'm kind of glad that didn't happen, but there's still that part of me that wishes it did happen because that would have been a good scene. But I think the Praetorian Guards is almost equal to that.
Yeah, I think there's probably some rumor of a big fight scene with multiple people, and I felt the cracks, and someone pieced together saying it's going to be the Knights of Rey versus Luke and Rey, when really it was Kylo and Rey versus the Guards.
We may see the Knights of Ren later because they were referenced again in The Last Jedi as, I guess, survivors of Kylo's slaughter on the Jedi Temple that Luke had built. So
I think we had this debate last time. We're not debating, but we talked about I felt I got to rewatch Force Awakens. I mean, I watched like a month ago, but I felt like Snoke calls Kylo the last of the Knights of the Ren, as in like the rest of them are dead or something. So if that, I mean, which is kind of weird because like who killed them if they did die? But yeah.
He says Master of the Knights of Ren.
Master Knights of
Ren. Master of the Knights of Ren.
Okay, maybe that makes more sense.
Yeah, so he's the leader. So that brings.
Where are they? That's my question. It's like why would they not?
Good question. I want to know where the hell they are.
Not be there with the First Order. Next on what's happening in Star Wars land.
Yeah.
But yeah, badass fight scene. I'm glad to see the Praetorian Guards were more than just a toy merchandising item. Like, part of me thought that's what it was going to be. They were just going to be like a merchant ploy, like
Phasma.
Yeah, Jesus.
I think we'll just omit that whole section we were going to talk about Phasma because I kind of think we're all on the same page.
You know what? I think it's even worse than it. Or I think it was worse initially than it turned out to be because I don't think that they planned on continuing Phasma's role. And that they probably wouldn't have had there not been such an outcry from the fans who were looking forward to seeing Phasma in The Force Awakens and were upset that she ended up in a garbage chute. If there hadn't been such an outcry, I don't think they would have stuck her in The Last Jedi. That we're lucky we even got Phasma.
But it felt so shoehorned in. It felt
and that's exactly why.
It literally felt rushed. And I mean, the best part about it, in my point of view, was seeing that broken mask and seeing that there's a human in there, and we know it's a lady, But we only see that eye. That's all we see. It's a small glimpse. And to me, that was the most interesting part because everything else felt rushed and shoehorned and just kind of, we have to do this to go through the motions. And to be honest, she went out too quick. It was Boba Fett 2.0.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a begrudging, like reluctant fan service, in that they're like, you wanted more of her, here she is. She didn't die in the garbage chute.
We're gonna take her away.
Now she's gone, but here you go. There's your closure, and moving on.
It really was Boba Fett because Boba Fett has a lore to him in the Star Wars universe, but in the films themselves, he's barely in it. Like he's in Empire Strikes Back for like 2-3 really prominent scenes. You know, introduction, the carbonite chamber, and then the very end when he flies off.
We just know he's a badass bounty hunter, and he's one of the best.
And then we see him in Jedi, and it's like he shows up, and then he gets knocked down into the Sarlacc pit, and he's dead. Or, you know, dead on screen, off screen, he's back.
So see, to me, that kind of screams that there wasn't any fan service in '83 or '82 when they shot Jedi, because they weren't planning on a backlash from fans.
Yeah.
They were just doing what they were doing story wise, and the fans. You know, there wasn't an internet back then, so there wasn't
that
fans to give them a lot of feedback. I mean, people wrote letters, I'm sure, but nowhere near what people maybe really wanted with Boba Fett, and that's why they just did their story. And
the thing, Phasma, it's like you could less likely than say Boba Fett's death is that it's not 100% possible that impossible that she's not.
There's still that room for
it's
resurface.
Like, it's insanely impossible, but she managed to survive fucking falling into a pit of fire because she wears some special space armor that's heat resistant or something. Who knows?
Well, we did see a blaster bounce off of it, but I don't know that.
It just because it's like Boba Fett, like after Return of the Jedi, he was quiet. No one talked about him. Started doing comic books, stories and stuff. Phasma, same thing. She was Force Awakens and don't know anything about her. Since then, they did a book. They did a miniseries where that was kind of fun. The interesting is like it was almost like a secrecy, like who's behind the mask. Because in this comic book, I don't know if you read it.
I did, yeah.
It's like there's a scene where she goes in disguise and she also puts another weird helmet on.
Or we never see her face.
Yeah, she doesn't show her face in the comic. It's like, it's probably because they're told like don't show her face, but it's like why would you hide a face which is a normal looking face? Like who is she? Is she somebody? Then
because it also buys them time to think of whatever they're gonna think of for later on with that character. Maybe in between movies, in between
it's like,
Last Jedi and whatever, because I think that armor could survive an explosion. It's from Palpatine's Naboo cruiser, for crying out loud. I think it can survive some heat.
Is that where it's from?
That's what I heard.
Oh shoot! I didn't know that. That's interesting.
She salvaged the silver armor from one of his royal cruisers.
From the book?
I think so.
I'm about to read that now. I didn't know that.
The Phasma book?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've not read any Phasma books.
No, I read. My sister read it. I should ask her about that. But no, that's the thing. It's like if they're probably doing stuff as much as they can, and they'll leave it up to the filmmakers to be like, if you want to bring her back, you can. You don't have to. If you decide not to, then maybe after episode 9, then we can bring her back in our own way and talk about her more.
She's a wild card because we don't know what they're going to do with her. They could do anything.
Because
it seems like apparently no one's truly dead in Star Wars.
Except for Han.
Dak.
Hey man, still holding out. Snoke is actually Dak.
Oh boy.
After his
Snoke, Dak is the same name.
fighter was burned up.
Maybe it's Wedge. That's what happened to Wedge.
Oh.
Snoke. That kind of reminds me of actually a couple other characters that this is not important to the story really, but I'm gonna lie. I thought that actress Jessica Henwick, I think chick that played Jess in Force Awakens. She's also in the Iron Fist show. It's Colleen Wing, and she's in Game of Thrones as one of the Sand Sisters. I'm horrible about her name, but she was completely missing from the story. Like she wasn't with the First Order, with the Resistance, and neither was the other X-Wing fighter from Force Awakens. Played by Greg Grundon. that it's kind of like weird that the couple random characters you actually see on screen, Force Awakens, the Resistance people, aren't
Oh,
there.
you mean Snap Wexley?
Snap Wexley, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, like he's not there. I mean,
Brain fart.
yeah, I was trying to think his name. I knew
But
like,
Billy Lord's there.
Bill was there, which I love that they gave her like a role in this movie, and I hope she gets a bigger role in this. And you know,
We love you, Billy Lord.
yeah, with episode 9, I mean, you know, that's great that she got to work with her mom on screen and stuff. You know, especially after what happens with Carrie and everything. It's like let's get more of her. I mean, she could be like.
She had a speaking role, and that was great.
She had a lot of screen time. I mean,
And like a lot of expository dialogue and just explaining. I think, I mean, maybe not expository, but explaining what was happening to the audience,
yeah, and
kind of filling in that gap.
yeah, and she could be kind of like a good side character in episode 9, as far as like because she's one of the few people that lives through the Resistance. So maybe she gets a bigger role in the next movie. We'll see with that. But yeah, no, it's just kind of there's a couple random characters that I was thinking about, like whether they just aren't in this movie. I don't know why, if that's going to tie into episode 9, or they just it wasn't relevant because they were just like cameo actors because of J.J. Abrams.
You know, the one person I think we don't know his fate, and we don't see anything, we don't hear anything. Oh, please be alive, Nine Numb. Please be alive. Where is Nine Numb?
He's there.
I remember we see him,
Yeah.
but I don't think we see him afterwards.
Nah, I think he might go down for the cruisers.
He possibly went with Akbar.
No,
That's probably what he would have wanted, though.
No, because no, he's in the room after the blow up on the bridge. He's in that room he's next to.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I feel like he might be on the Falcon too at the end. I've seen it 3 times yet. I can't remember that scene entirely. I might see it again.
I'll have to watch it again later tonight. I mean, tomorrow.
I mean, I'm definitely seeing it again for sure Saturday in IMAX, and then I'm probably gonna see it on Friday, possibly after work. We'll see. But yeah, so missing characters, FYI or MIA. I guess we'll see episode 9 if they're in there or not. But yeah, so Luke.
I wasn't a fan at first, and I know I told you this before, but I wasn't a fan that he came back, and you know, it was a little off-putting that he came back with a different color beard, and it was tightened up and cut. You know, it was he didn't look so grungy coming back, but you know, I just kept going with it. I you know, just like we said before, I just kept going with the story, and once it was revealed that he wasn't really there, to me it kind of cheapened his scene with Leia at first. But, and wow, I sound like DJ here, but
Don't do it.
I see what they did about the whole. I liked what they did in the end. I felt a little hurt and betrayed at first that he wasn't really there, and that it felt like the emotional weight of what, you know, he was saying to Leia and giving her the gold sabacc dice it was cheapened. But then in the end, I kind of came around, and you know, now I'm on that wagon as I'm okay with it. Bo, I think you were okay with it from the start.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically showing the Force isn't necessarily a physical thing. Like, he's there in spirit in a way. So, like, Leia knows he's there. She feels him there. They're connected through the Force. This is the neighbors. So, I mean, it's basically you don't need to be in the same room to, like, feel each other's presence or be, you know, able to communicate and stuff. Especially they're twins and stuff. They have a special connection that way.
You know, honestly, I was just thinking about that, is that maybe the Force even, you know, kind of started touching on the back before about new Force abilities, a new way the Force has manifested itself, is that maybe it appears in each Jedi and each Sith differently, because not every Sith has had the Sith lightning, you know, but we haven't seen every Jedi be able to propel themselves or to move themselves forward with the Force the way it
I think it's just again showing us more of the Force. And
Right.
what we were saying earlier, it's given us something new, and I think it was just expanding on the Kylo and Rey telepathy.
Yeah.
And I think his like appearance, because like that's what threw me off, was like his whole appearance obviously is different than what he actually looks like when you first see him.
And that's on purpose. Like, they want you to be like, why is he clean shaven?
For me, it wasn't
shaven?
his appearance; it was the lightsaber thing. That's what threw me off. I was like, why does he have his original lightsaber? Like, wasn't just destroyed? Is they missing something? Did Rey give it to him or something? Like, what's going on? I'm so confused. And then it's like, oh, he appeared the way he wanted to, which I hate.
It still doesn't make sense that he had the lightsaber.
I think because
It would be more
he projected.
genuine to have his original. The one that he was going to strike Kylo Ren down with.
Yes,
Done.
but I think it might that might have just been like a creative choice, like behind the scenes from the actual film, and like hey Mark, what lightsaber do you want to have in this scene? Kind of like in the prequels, they let Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, and
Samuel Jackson.
Liam Neeson, they let him pick their lightsaber. It's like, what do you want to use on
I
screen?
don't think Mark Hamill would pick the blue one, though. I think Mark Hamill would pick the green, because Mark Hamill's a very fan-oriented guy, and he knows what's up. He knows what we want.
As the guy that played Luke, like the first time he got to play Luke, and like, this is a lightsaber, it's like, wow, this is really cool. Like, the very first time you ever touch one of those, like, kind of nostalgia, you go with that saber. Plus, it might be a story plot where it's like, he's Kylo wanted that saber from Rey, and Luke's like, you want it now? I got it, motherfucker. Come get it.
But it makes you question how it was destroyed. It was broken in two, as we saw. We saw Rey holding it later in two. So we can buy the fact that she had it. But granted, we saw that she had it after the Luke incident. But still, if you're, I'm not saying worth your weight in Star Wars salt, but like if you're, I wasn't paying attention, so I'm guilty of this too, but like if you were really like paying attention, you would be questioning that. Once you saw him with it, you would say, why does he have that instantly? But granted, you wouldn't come to the conclusion he's projecting himself. It would just be one more really big weird thing along with the shaven beard and appearance.
Might show like some kind of like, oh, how did he get there? It's like, oh, maybe Rey found him and picked him up, or I don't know.
As a red herring, maybe.
Yeah. And then I think the reason he looks that way too, though, is kind of funny, is Return of the Jedi, freaking George Lucas special edition DVD version, put Hayden Christensen in place of Sebastian Shaw. David Prowse is...
No,
Sebastian Shaw plays Anakin Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. Replaces him with Hayden Christensen. It's like, why would you do that? Like, what? That's just awful if you put that guy in that scene. But in a way, it makes sense. If Vader comes back, he would be what he remembers himself as a human. That's what he looked like before he, got his ass kicked and thrown to the high ground into lava.
I kind of agree with what you were saying, that even like some of the horror movies, when you have the ghost haunting the mansion, the woman, that it's usually the old lonely widow doesn't come back as the old hag. She appears in her prime. She's kind of in how she'd like to remember herself. It's kind of like the beautiful youthful woman, or I don't know. I kind of can see that. He'd come back as the Luke that he still he still imagines himself as kind of that hero, even though he is kind of this old grouch.
I think, the very last thing, the only little problem I had, and I think I'll end my bitching on this. I didn't want Finn to die, but I would have been okay if he had, finished his plan, and it wouldn't have felt cliche to me, because I would have remembered all those times where, he wasn't, he didn't know where to belong. He wanted to be a hero,
Yeah, I wouldn't have been, I'm kind of with you, I wouldn't have been happy that he was dead.
Yeah.
But seeing that and then kind of leading you to believe that he's about to die, it didn't feel, I wasn't shocked, and it didn't feel out of place, like this isn't right, he's still got so much left. Like, that felt like a fitting end, especially kind of redeeming himself from, I think he was kind of shamed earlier when he was trying to get into the escape pod.
Yeah.
And he realized that the girls saw him as a hero, and then you can see, he gets that sense of shame, like, oh, I wasn't running away. But
and even Force Awakens, he does the same thing. He tries to run away before, when they're on Mascalana's planet, like he's like, I'm gonna run away with these guys and go work for them and get away from the First Order. Same thing with this. It's like he's just like, he's truly in it now. He has to join the fight, and then he's got to sacrifice himself in order for the Resistance to live.
Right, and like what better way to redeem himself than giving his life for a thing he was about to run away from? It's like the full heroic circle.
Yeah, so I'd have been okay with it.
It would have worked.
And yeah, obviously Luke dying, not the end of his character. He's gonna be back. I mean, he literally said, "See you around, kid," aka
I'll be back.
I'll be back in episode 9 as a ghost. Probably as that version, because Mark Hamill's like, I look good this way. I look nice, young, and fit in my little sort of black suit, kind of matching Return of the Jedi. Another thing too, I think they want to make him look kind of more Return of the Jedi,
More regal
than
an
current Obi-Wan style.
Yeah, in desperate need of a haircut and a shave.
Yeah. They escape. Rey uses the Force. They're on the Falcon. We go back to Canto Bite. See the kid with the Force.
Oh yes. How could I forget the ending? Now, the one thing I want to say about this ending, well, two things. The first thing is that I liked it. Second thing was I think it was placed wrong, and I've remained firm on this since the first time I saw the movie, and that was that the ending to me felt like the ending to wrap something up, to kind of tie the bow on the end of it. It was a third movie ending to me, and there was nothing wrong with the ending itself. It was its placement. But I think it could also go back to what we said earlier, is that maybe that's part of their ultimate story, is to have Rey training new Jedi 10 years later, 5 years later, whatever, in episode 9. And, maybe a Kylo situation arises, or maybe one of those kids comes up and helps Rey defeat Kylo, or, numerous other plot devices.
Maybe that did get tacked on at the end. That was like a total afterthought. Like, hey, let's show the kids here as a way to start off, episode 9, right, maybe 10 years in the future, and that way we can, you can kill Leia off screen, and maybe it opens with a memorial, or you see there's a shrine somewhere in the background, and there's a nod to the, there's this great, person in the rebellion kind of a thing. But we acknowledge that she was there, but use the time jump to get by all these difficult plot situations.
Or also, I think it's like maybe they're gonna show, because the end, they the whole like them trying to reach out to their allies and like no one's answering the call. Maybe this is kind of showing there's pockets of the universe that they haven't gotten to, where they're like, we're gonna come and fight with you to stop the First Order, to fight the potential dark side of Kylo Ren and all that. And this is like we're seeing the building of different areas of the universe being like, we're coming to you.
Lando.
I was gonna say it. You beat me to it. Lando freaking Calrissian.
Yeah, because I mean, like, if there's another episode between all of this, episode 9 is the Resistance surviving and rebuilding, and like the Jedi will survive, and that's the final scene, and then that's the end of the saga.
Well, it could be about the Jedi and the Resistance, like you said. They're both building up the same to overcome the enemy, and a lot of third movies are like that, where they'll end happily, and it's all about rising up and defeating the enemy. And it's also weird, is a lot of the third movies, I've noticed this goes with Star Wars, this goes for a lot of other franchises, is that the third movie always harkens back to the first movie. In somewhere, shape, or form. Something small, something little. They were building a second Death Star in Return of the Jedi. Again, Revenge of the Sith. Evil. 9 is going to be triumphant, and we shall overcome and rise to meet the new day. And
it's not going to end with the First Order winning. I don't think they're going to go that route. There's going to be a lot of story in episode 9 involving, I'm sure, the return of the Jedi Order again, or maybe not the Jedi Order as Luke saw fit, but like a version of it where Rey as the front, the face of the Jedi, I guess, in this front,
because she is Or he is not the last Jedi.
She is the last Jedi.
She's the last Jedi, right, as of now.
Yeah.
And then it's Dumbledore's army.
And yeah, and then of course we'll see the resistance growing, and then because that right now it's all speculation what's going to happen next. Because big plot point, Carrie being gone. Episode 9 was her movie. It was her passing of the torch, I feel like, and now we're not going to get that. So we got to see what's coming next.
Jedi Leia would have been cool.
And also even the tone shift, you know, we have J.J. Abrams will be coming back, so tonally it could, you know, who knows.
Yeah.
Full circle to one.
Definitely Rian Johnson was the guy to make the Dark movie, and where things got dark, people died. This will be probably some more people will die, but we'll have growth out of the light from the dark side, from the First Order. As it should be. As the same with Return of the Jedi, you know.
Return of the King.
Return of the King, Rebellion beats the Empire. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, I mean, was the opposite. The light, darkest of the universe. But that's it.
Yeah, I mean, when we left out on, you know, Empire Strikes Back, Han was in carbonite, Luke was maimed, you know, Vader was doing fine. So, I mean, it was all up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if this is clearly the end of the saga. And then this next chapter, Rian Johnson, whatever he's going to do, what, you know, beyond that.
Ewok trilogy.
Well,
no, we have that.
Yeah,
it's Return of the Jedi, Caravan of Courage, and what's the other one called?
A Christmas movie?
No. Oh boy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a whole other podcast. The holiday special.
we can go to Gun Land. We go to I can't remember what the Gungan city's called.
Well, I think I heard something about Rian Johnson saying that Gungans weren't exempt from his new trilogy. Oh, I'm not kidding. We'll see.
I mean, it's the one species you can't really involve without tying to the prequels, because I mean, you don't really hear anything about them outside of the prequels. I mean, other characters you've seen in Rebels and Clone Wars as Jedi and soldiers and stuff. So,
well, maybe even fortunately for the fan base, is that they're one of the races that's like tied to their, because they live underwater in a very specific place, and they've shown to be kind of almost like a primitive kind of people. They're very tied to Naboo.
They're tied to their planet, like
just like the Ewoks are tied to Endor Moon.
Yeah, it's like without seeing those characters, you have to go to the planets. I mean,
right? There's no Ewok, you know, gamblers in the Tatooine.
Please, Ryan, do not go to Naboo.
I don't imagine he's going to. I don't like this. It's all new stuff. Like, we're not going to Naboo. We're not going to Tatooine. We're not going to Hoth. We're not going to Crate. We're not going to Jeddah. We're not going to these planets. I feel like we're gonna get a whole.
Oh yeah, Jeddah.
And we might hear like inklings of some planets or something, or we'll see species we know. But I feel like it's. I mean, new stuff. We'll see. So yeah, I mean, so now at this point, it's Last Jedi is done. We're waiting episode 9. You know, a million theories out there already.
Oh, but we have one thing in front of us that will not show itself, nor will it. I don't know how it's going to happen. You know what I speak of.
Solo movie?
The Solo movie. That's a whole other podcast itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's December now. You know, with Last Jedi out, we'll get this for Super Bowl Sunday. Maybe that's where we'll see it.
I almost bet money we were going to get a Han Solo trailer with The Last Jedi, but then after we didn't, I remembered Disney doesn't like to cross-promote like that.
Yeah.
So they're going to shut up about The Last Jedi, and once they do, it's full Solo.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel that, or I don't feel that it, you know, necessarily something we need to have, but I think it might be interesting to see him meet Chewie. I think that could be an interesting angle. Is Han without Chewie, and then
it doesn't be the chemistry of the characters or the actors. Like, I want to see the chemistry between Donald Glover and Alden Ehrenreich, whatever the heck his name is. If they can play off each other as well as Harrison Ford and Billy D. Williams can. I mean, all the other new characters, Emilia Clarke's character, Woody Harrelson's character. We'll see what they go, but do we need it? No. Are we getting it? Yeah. I mean, is it going to be the worst thing in the world? Probably not. Is it going to be Crystal Skull? Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Hey, as long as it's, a fun story. I mean, a lot of question marks around it, a lot of clouds with, the director switch.
It's an uncertain movie at this point.
It's uncertain for sure, but you know what? Rogue One was uncertain. It worked. I don't think it'll be that quality of a film, but could be surprised.
It could knock it out of the park. You never know.
We'll get to that when it comes to. We all liked it. It's unanimous. We enjoy the movie. It's good.
Agreed.
It's got its flaws, but it's a Star Wars film. It's fun. It's good.
And we need to see it again.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for listening, and come back. We'll do this again.
Don't forget to visit our pages. We hope that you all be safe, anticipate responsibly, as I always say, and be nice to each other over The Last Jedi.
And remember, let the Wookiee win.
Let the Wookiee win.